Hello and welcome back. I have read over all of the introductions, I believe, and except for the last few that have trickled in, and most of your posts for the Frank DeFord article. And it looks like the ones I read, at least, a lot of you don't have a lot of experience with roller derby, but that's just fine. We'll be reading a lot and watching a lot, so you will have a lot of experience. I'll also put some links up to some sites where you can watch roller derby games, archived roller derby games, and stuff like that. The WFDA website is a good one. Women's Flat Track Derby Association, WFTDA, and I'll go ahead and put that link up. It does look. I was interested that some of you guys, even though you don't have a lot of experience with derby, do some of you have experience with skating, or a little bit at least, or other sports experience. And I think the theoretical readings we do in this class will be applicable not only to roller derby, but also to a lot of the other sports that you all are interested in. Some of you guys, I notice, have experience in women's and gender studies, and I think that will be very helpful for you in this class as well, because we're going to be reading a lot of theory in a particular field called feminist sports studies and applying it to roller derby. We're going to be reading and watching a lot of stuff on roller derby, but the theoretical stuff that we use to look at roller derby will be in gender studies. The introductions, like I said in the email, are due at 11:59 tonight, 11:59 p.m. That's Central Standard Time. So if you've traveled to the east or the west coast, be careful that you're going by Oklahoma time, because that's when the boards close. And if you notice on the syllabus, I don't accept late work if there are particular circumstances with technical difficulties and this sort of stuff. That's why I have the technical board up. And I've also particularly because the Frank DeFord article wasn't accessible today, I've went ahead and bumped that discussion board, so it is going to close tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m., the same time that your next assignment is. So I want to give you guys a little extra time because of the technical difficulties there. A lot of I checked that website and it worked fine before I put it up. I think what might have happened is it wasn't used to all of the activity, and so when everyone started checking on it, it shut down, or maybe it thought there was some problem, a virus or something like that. I'm not sure. But I do have it copied into a PDF file on the Content tab. Reading over your... but first of all, I'm glad to get to know you guys, and it sounds like you guys have enthusiasm for learning about roller derby, which I think is great, but I also think some of the stuff we read here will be applicable outside of that. On the Frank DeFord article, he wrote that in 1969 for Sports Illustrated. It was kind of when the heyday of roller derby was starting to lose its popularity, like he said in there, and when we do make it to the documentary, a lot of that will be explained. But before I talk about Frank DeFord's article, real quickly, I want to say something about the documentary. A lot of you have found it hard to find, so to ease your worries here, I have a couple solutions. I have put it on hold at the library, so you can actually go to the library, check it out for in-library use to watch. You might go up with a group or something. I think I've seen people posting in the technical issues board about perhaps groups going to see it, so you might want to check that out. If you're out of town, though, and able to get it because Amazon has sold out, I've contacted the publisher and they haven't gotten back to me. So if you can't get a hold of it, don't worry. What I will do is provide an alternate assignment for you to be able to get those points. If you do have it, though, I think it's a great documentary covering the early days of roller derby. Now, Frank DeFord's article is really interesting because he calls it the Derby, and it's referred to the Derby a lot in the older iterations of roller derby. And when I talk to roller girls now, they use it ironically. They call it the Derby, and they laugh about it because they don't really use the term in that way now, but it was used broadly in the early days of roller derby. One way you could see that, there was a CSI Miami episode where they kept calling it the Derby, and the roller girls had talked to me about that and said that they weren't using the current verbiage in that show, but others, you guys have posted that there are other episodes of various shows that talk about roller derby, like King of the Hill. I haven't seen that one yet, but I look forward to finding it. A lot of you found interesting passages dealing with how rough the sport was, and particularly in the early days, I think it was very rough. It still is. It still is a very rough sport, and it can be dangerous. But as you'll see, it's changed quite a bit. As we move along the course, you'll be able to see that. You also pointed out how they had a very hard life traveling constantly from show to show. And one of you pointed out, at least one of you pointed out, that they had a very interesting, in the article Frank DeFord was interviewing, I forget the interviewee's name, it escaped me at the moment, but he was saying that they had a hard time finding athletic women for derby. But she said this was probably, the student said this was probably mostly due to the way that women were viewed at the time, and I think that's a very important point. One that I think would be helpful to take with us into reading the next work. So make sure to get your introductions. Make sure to respond to 2 other people on your introductions by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight. Tomorrow night, I will extend that board for the Frank DeFord article, and the instructions are there. If you want further instruction on that, see my first YouTube video. Moving on to the next selection. This is where we're going to start reading a little bit of theoretical work, and it's going to be, it's very short. It is in the file that's not labeled Michael Mesner. If you'll notice, there are actually 2 different readings in that file, and so I've marked it, you're only reading pages 1 through 5, not by the Adobe Acrobat pagination, but actually the page numbers on the page themselves. You'll be stopping with the subheading Bodies and Violence, so you only have to read that far. It's a very short reading, but I'm going to ask you 3 particular questions about that. This next assignment, it's not going to be a discussion assignment, it's going to be a Dropbox assignment. So if you click over on the Dropbox tab, open that up, I give you the instructions for what I'm looking for, as well as the questions. Make sure, and I emphasize this in the questions, to put these in your own words. I've already read this, and I know what Michael Mesner is saying. I think I have a good understanding of what he's saying, but I want to see what you think he is saying, particularly in response to those 3 questions. Make sure to upload that in either a .doc or .rtf format. I can only read very few formats, and if it's something that is exclusive to a Mac or something like that, I just can't open it up, and I need to be able to see that. That Dropbox is also going to close tomorrow night, 12/21 at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it's going to start us, I think, into reading about what is called feminist sports studies, and being able to apply that, I think, usefully to the roller derby texts we read. Now, the text we read about roller derby, this is only one way to look at it. There are many things we can analyze in these roller derby texts, as you guys already have started to do so. But this theoretical lens, I think, will be helpful, like I said, for analysis of other sports, also gender studies. If you do any gender studies or have done gender studies, it'll be helpful for that as well. I look forward to your posts, and I see you guys' excitement on the board, so and I share that excitement. And if you have any questions about any of the assignments or any of the materials or anything like that, please feel free to shoot me an email or post on the technical issues board. All right, I'll see you guys next time.